Drum loops, my favorite. Matter of fact, let's go through the drum loops first. What do all of these producers have in common? Dr. Dre, Timbaland, Neptunes, Scott Storch. They defined an era. They defined what it means to be a super producer. And since recent music has been taking a lot of inspiration from 2000s music, I decided to make a drum kit inspired by the 2000s, and it's called Verified Bounce. Let's cook up something cool with it, and then I'll show you guys what's inside of the kit. Let me see if I can finesse that a little bit. Sometimes when I'm working on some of this stuff, I don't end up showing this stuff to you guys on YouTube videos because a lot of this stuff, you'll learn this in school, but sadly, YouTube retention just tanks. However, there's a real skill to doing this. Way, this library that I'm using for these strings is called Pro Oriental Strings. This is one of my favorite ones to use when I'm trying to make that Bollywood style like orchestra. This particular sound I'm recording into Edison because of that gradual strum. I want to time align that to a beat. One of the things that makes the sound of the 2000s so recognizable is the sound of the drums. And a lot of the time, it has to do with a lot of layers. The way that I'm going to do that is by layering a couple of kicks, layering a couple of snares, claps, and a ton of percussion in order to create that bounce. That's why we call it verified bounce. That's a hard kick. We need like a snare of some sort. That sounds very Fat Joe. I want to add a little bit of sloppiness to that snare. It's something that I've heard a lot from producers like the Neptunes and Timbo. And so what we're going to do is find like a lazy sounding clap. That one's the one. And the trick to doing this is you want to just tuck it behind the grid a little bit. This kick is sounding a little hollow. We need something that's going to be hard. And I think this 8th kick that I have is going to actually get us that sound. Just by playing with the phase and the pitch of these kicks ever so slightly, you can get different tonality out of it. It's one of the things that I do when I'm creating these sounds. Take a listen to how the kick drum sounds when I pitch the kick drum down by 2 semitones versus 2 up. It's ever so slight that it happens. And then additionally, doing the same thing, but by reversing the polarity. And that's just something that I've had to skip a lot of the time in these videos, but it is really worth noting because it is something that I feel like separates the amateur producers from the professionals. Again, layers on layers. Ooh, ooh, ooh. It's so hard to explain how to create bounce, and it's not just like, hey, use this sound. It has to do with the texture of those sounds. The sounds of the 2000s weren't so perfect and punchy all the time. They were actually kind of weak sounding, in my opinion. The second step is the percussion and the pockets in which you put those percussion sounds. You can put the percussion sounds on the grid, but you're really gonna create the bounce when you shift those percussion hits forward or backwards in time. Let me show you. And using shakers, man, that was the sound of the day. Which brings me finally to the last thing that I would do to create bounce, and that's to use percussion loops. I think that's literally the sauce right there. It's just the percussion loops. So let me show you how I would go about creating that bounce with some of the included percussion loops inside of verified bounce. Let's go into, let's say, drum loops here. You've got all these drum loops that you can reference before going into the stems folder and picking out the individual ones. You got lots of cool ones in here like this one. That one's cool. All right, so we've made a beat. I'm happy with it. Now let me show you guys some of the sounds that you can expect to receive inside verified bounce. The first thing I want you to notice is how well it's organized. We've got kicks, and we've got a bunch of them organized by their name rather than folders, so that you can quickly open up those sounds rather than going through all the extra folders that I used to add in all my previous kits. Drum loops, my favorite. Matter of fact, let's go through the drum loops first. As you can see, tons of variety in that, but you also have the options to pull individual stems. So let's take example 8 here. We're going to verified drums number 8. You've got the kick drum, the percussion loop, the snare drum, some vocals. Now this actual texture came from my Monarch drum kit, and it also really built on something that I've learned from Timbaland, which is just to use weird sounds to create rhythms and loops that'll give it some life, some flavor to it. And this, I think, did a great job. I mean, just listen to the loop. There's also a separate folder of just some random percussion loops that I had created. Here are some of them now. Now that particular sound, if you take a cocktail shaker glass and you fill it with a little bit of water and you hit it with a metal spoon and you jiggle that cup, you'll get that weird warbling sound that you hear in this particular loop. And then we've got this one, this is my favorite one here as well. All right, let's go to the kicks now. We've got big kicks, bouncy kicks, and punchy kicks. Here's some big kicks. Listen to how mean that sounds, man. Now, the bounce kicks are really inspired by Timbo himself because he used these weird, like, tonal kick drum sounds. Check this out. And you can hear that kick being used in the drum loop on drum loop number 11. And then we got some 808s in here. We've got a ton of these. And then we got some basses in there because 2000s, I think they use a lot more synthesizers, bass guitars, that kind of stuff. But let me show you some of these anyways. All right, let's check out some of the snares. All of these are also organized, and I think there's something like 25, 30 snares in there. Organized as hip-hop snares, some very like Dr. Dre-esque, some Timbaland style snares. Then we've got some R&B snares, specifically really feel like Brent Faiyaz's style. And some trap snares. We've got a couple of rims, claps, a variety. And then finally, we have some cymbal sounds. Go through these super quick because they can be pretty boring, I won't lie. Finally, we got some open hats, some hip hop style ones, and then some normal ones, and some weird ones because I just like doing some weird sound design sometimes. We got some percussion sounds in the next folder, and you can see a ton of variety here. We've got a ton of bongo sounds. If you don't know the reference, what can I say? This one's a great one to start your song with. This one is a super popular one for some Timbaland / Neptune style bounce. The shaker, my favorite one. You've got some tom sounds, some triangles, wood blocks, and then we've got some vocals. Next, we have some sound effects. We've got some downers. Some random weird ones, because those are just always fun to have. Some risers. Some transition effects. If you're interested in trying out these sounds for yourself, it'll be linked in the description. Your support obviously will always mean the most to me. So if you guys want to check it out, feel free to do so. Until next time, my name is Sicky. See you guys next time. And finally, you've seen the drum loops as well. Now, if you're interested in trying out these sounds for yourself, it'll be linked in the description. Your support obviously will always mean the most to me. So if you guys want to check it out, feel free to do so. Until next time, my name is Sicky. See you guys next time.